coming out of MotoGP qualifying here on beIN Sports and heading right into MotoAmerica. It is round one out of Austin, Texas. Exciting stuff, Kevin Egan.
And do you know who's always excited? Our very own Julian Gonzalez is our gridside reporter. He's there for us. He's been enjoying the action as well over in Austin, Texas. And he is as excited about this one as the MotoGP as well.
Absolutely. Let's send it out to Julian Gonzalez, our gridside reporter. Julian, what is the atmosphere there in Austin ahead of MotoAmerica?
I'll tell you what, Terry and Kevin, and it's super exciting here. This city, actually, you wouldn't think it. Maybe, you know what? Maybe they haven't embraced it because, as we all know, it's a new series. But everyone in this city, if you head downtown, people are wearing their shirts. You turn on the news, everybody's talking about MotoAmerica, and why not? I mean, it's such quality, great racers. It's the future of American racing. It's the guys that we're going to see out in MotoGP competing one day. We had a chance to talk to guys like Jake Lewis, Roger Hayden, great young guys, and somebody like Gagne, who's just, you know, phenomenal guy, and they just kind of like, it's the essence, the start of a new sport for them, in a sense, if you want to call it that, and they really embrace it, and you kind of feel it, and you just kind of you can't help yourself but really, really get into the sport as a spectator.
Far more of nearly a local connection, say, to MotoAmerica as opposed to MotoGP. The fans can really connect and relate to those riders. Let's talk about Roger Hayden for a second. The eyes of Owensboro, Kentucky will be on Roger. It's a big day for him, isn't it?
Oh, no, it really is, you know, especially when you consider, you know, the legend that is his brother and all his brothers, you know, Nicky Hayden, a former MotoGP champion. I had a chance to talk to him today. Very well-rounded kid, and he, you know, he said that he's very excited coming into this new season. He had a little bit of concerns coming into today only because of the weather conditions. As we all know, it's been spotty. It's been raining in and out. We even actually saw some lightning out on the east side of the track early on this morning. And finally, right now, the sun's coming out. But he was, if anything, he was very excited, not only for this race in particular, but of course, all of MotoAmerica, which everyone can see right here on beIN Sport the entire season. And of course, right now, you know, there's, you know, some riders out on the grid getting ready for the Superbike. And of course, we're going to have that for all of you back home with all the results. So I'm going to throw it back to you guys right now, Terry and Kevin, because in a short couple of minutes, I'm not going to be able to hear anything you guys ask me.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Julian. It's the best seat in the house for him, obviously,
big time.
here at the Circuit of the Americas. And we are excited to get this race underway. So we're going to head to break. When we come back, we're getting right into MotoAmerica Race 1, and it is Roger Hayden leading the way in pole position. Stick around. We'll be right back. MotoAmerica Race 1 Superbikes is about to get underway here on beIN Sports. So glad you could join us. Terry Lee and Kevin Egan for you. We're going to get out to Austin as soon as possible. Quick recap of MotoGP today. We just saw the qualifying results out of that ahead of tomorrow's race. And no surprises, really, Marc Marquez finishing first.
We say no surprises, but when you look at the competitors that he's up against as well, it's incredible, really. He's only 23 years of age. He's really, really impressive. Jorge Lorenzo crashed out on the 6th lap in Argentina in the last race. He needs to respond. He needs to pick up big points in this one over in Austin, Texas. And then you've obviously got Valentino Rossi as well, the plucky 37-year-old. Still hanging around, needs to try and get his first win of the season. But Marc Marquez, very, very impressive indeed. Yeah,
and Rossi, very lucky to finish second in Argentina after a couple of Ducatis crashed in the final turn on the final lap. And so obviously he's sitting pretty right now in the MotoGP standings.
MotoGP, let's get over to MotoAmerica, shall we?
Let's do it. MotoAmerica, we are ready to go. Let's send it out to Greg and Jason in Austin for Race 1 Superbikes. Enjoy.
That's right. It's the new U.S. Superbike Championship, and it's MotoAmerica Superbike Championship of Texas. And we are getting ready for a Superbike race, and Roger Hayden on the Yoshimura Suzuki is on pole at a 209.151. Next to him, a former Moto2 MotoGP star, Tony Elias, Jake Gagne, rounding out row number 1. Cameron Beaubier and
Josh Hayes not on the front row.
Not on the front row. What a surprise.
Yeah, we're going a little bit further back here, Greg. Row 4, Steve Rapp, Kyle Wyman. As we just continue to go back to the grid, we got 26 riders that are going to start this race here in a minute. And, you know, it's great. We're here in front of the world of MotoGP, getting a chance to see the first race for MotoAmerica. These guys are going to be in Atlanta next week, so it's a quick turnaround for the teams and everybody else. But they did get to come here and test. It's great to see Roger Hayden on pole. I think it's a big boost for his confidence. Talking to him last night, he's taken a little bit different approach this year than he has in the past, and I think having Tony Elias on the team has definitely sparked him a little bit.
Some changes for MotoAmerica Superbike class from last year. They get qualifying tires. Now Dunlop, which is the control tire of choice, allows qualifiers to get one, what we call a Q tire. And Jason, as we're looking at these riders going out on the warm-up lap here for the COTA, Circuit of the Americas, it's a 3.4-mile course with 20 turns. Tell us, what's a Q?
It's really busy, but the Q is basically a specially designed tire for one hard lap, Greg, and it's extremely soft. So basically everything you do as a rider at your track day where you're trying to be as smooth and as comfortable as you can goes out the window a little bit, because this tire is going to let you get away with a lot more things. Now, when you do your outlap right out of the pits on that tire, you have to go really, really slow, especially at a big long circuit like this, 3.4 miles long. You've really got to just cruise around the first 3/4 of the lap. And then as Jim Allen used to tell me, he was the head Dunlop guy for so many years and taught me so many things. He used to say, Jason, when you get ready to do your qualifying lap, you just got to trust that tire. And that was always difficult for me. I was never very good at that. But this tire is so soft, and it is literally good for one lap. That's what a qualifier is.
Now, so far, the man who's been leading the way until qualifying was Cameron Beaubier, the reigning _1. In testing just a few weeks ago, he was able to dip into the 208s on a qualifying tire, but when he had his qualifier on, his bike started to actually run out of fuel. There was some confusion in the pits, something happened, and so Cameron ends up on row number 2. Now, folks, this is MotoAmerica Superbike and Superstock 1000 racing. So what you're gonna see are similar looking machines, but the configuration and what they're allowed to do to the motorcycle, Superbike is a faster machine with a lot more adjustability on it versus a super stock machine, which is more in alignment with the machine that you can buy right off the showroom floor.
Yeah, and the best of that class so far this weekend has been Bobby Fong on the ZX10, riding for Lattice Motorsports. Talking with him a little bit after the test, he was struggling, and I said, you know, my thoughts are it's a new bike, it's a new thing for him. He's been with the same team on another manufacturer in the past. To see him finish 6th yesterday at the end of the day, that team was very happy. And of course, he's got another veteran with him, David Anthony, on a ZX10 also. But I think the guy to watch in this race for me, just to see how he reacts to his first MotoAmerica Superbike race, is going to be Jake Gagne up on the front row, Greg, because he's won 2 national championships the last 2 years. This guy's not used to anything but winning. And talking with Danny Walker and some of the crew down there last night, they were over the moon last night. Finishing 3rd in qualifying was like a victory for them, and I think that Jake's going to breed off that confidence. So I think watching this front row is going to be interesting, and not seeing 2 factory Yamahas on the front row for the first time in a million years is going to be interesting also.
There's number 24, Tony Elias on that Yoshimura Suzuki, filling in for the injured Jake Lewis. Right part of your screen is the 32. We just talked about Jake Gagne right there. Broster Chicken Road Race Factory, Yamaha R1. A rider from Southern California who enjoys surfing and motorcycle racing is primed and ready to go.
And watch this turn 1, Greg, because it's very tricky. This is the slowest that they're going to be hitting turn 1 all weekend, and it's very sharp. You're going up an incredibly steep hill that you can't really get a good judge of on TV. And when you get up there, it gets very narrow. So we just want to see everybody get through that first turn. We're going to see who gets the jump.
Watch those 5 lights upper left-hand corner of your screen. And once they go out, we're going racing, and there's the clutch drop. And here we go, up the hill to turn number 1. Who's going to get the jump?
Roger got a great start. Josh Hayes from the 2nd row got an incredible start. We all know how much Josh likes to lead. Now let's look for the bunching up here in turn 1 and make sure everybody gets through, and it looks like they've done a great job. So Josh Hayes from the 2nd row just comes, oh no, it's Cameron Beaubier, sorry. Cameron Beaubier from the 2nd row just jumps right up there behind Raj.
So used to seeing that number 1 Josh Hayes for so many years with 4 Superbike titles to his name. It's now Cam Beaubier's responsibility to carry that number 1 plate. But out front is Roger Hayden on the 95. That's a Yoshimura Suzuki. Big storyline with Suzuki we'll get into later on in this race. But how about Jake Gagne also with a great launch and looking comfortable right behind the reigning Superbike champ.
Yeah, he's doing exactly what I expected him to do. He's going to get a good start, maybe just kind of get in there a little bit, see what these guys up in the front have, and was look back a little bit further in the pack. Danny Essig has never actually been to this track, but Cameron Beaubier goes underneath Raj as they dive down into turn 11.
Wow, so Cam Beaubier just sticks it in that corner, and it looks like he's able to make it stick, as now almost side by side. Roger Hayden's got a tuck in the draft of that Yamaha, and we'll see what that aging GSXR 1000 has under the hood. And there goes Roger Hayden. Is he going to do it on the brakes? No. Cameron Beaubier still in control. How about Tony Elias up the inside? So Tony Elias in his first race with MotoAmerica on the Yoshimura Suzuki makes a move on Jake Gagne, and he'll hold on to that position.
And he makes it stick as they head into this little stadium section of the track. For all those fans over there, they get to see about 6 or 7 turns. You see Cameron runs it in there very tight, not going to let anybody do it. These first 5 guys here are kind of the 5 guys I think are going to really fight this championship out as the year progresses. And, you know, Raj told us yesterday he just doesn't want to let anybody get away this year. He wants to stay there. He wants to collect those points. But it's great to see Tony Elias. Tony came here 2 weeks ago, and it's really a shot in the arm for our series to have somebody international come back over here. As you see, Bobby Fong going underneath another international star, Claudio Corti, who was riding MotoGP just last year. So you can tell the first 2 guys here breaking away a little bit. Raj isn't going to let Cameron go. We'll see if he's able to get those lap times and get back down to the times that he had done here during testing.
Tony Elias on the 24, once again here for the injured Jake Lewis. That's his motorcycle in 3rd spot. It looked like Jake Gagne was going to try to make a move, and there is the number 50 machine. That is Bobby Fong on that latest Motorsports Racing. That is a Superstock 1000 machine. So once again, we're mixing the 2 classes together. They get to race the same time, but there is a difference in the available engine modifications, the top speed of the motorcycles, and of course adjustability with different types of pivots and all kinds of things that are available. It's a big difference, a big jump from a Superstock 1000 to a Superbike as Elias gets on the gas and the rear end protests as Jake Gagne gets an eyeful of Tony Elias trying to get that throttle wide open.
Absolutely. You come down this section here, it's a little bit off camber, downhill fast. You can see Tony's using up every last inch of that racetrack. Josh Hayes just sitting back there behind these 2 guys. This is a track that, talking with Josh, he said he struggles at a little bit, you know, and every now and then, as riders, we have those places where we struggle. This is one of those places for Josh. You can see that just behind Josh there is Josh Herron, former Superbike champion, and he's trying to come along. So he would be our first Superstock rider, and he looked like he struggled a little bit this morning in warm-up, but it looks like he's got things together, as you see Tony really breaking deep down there at the end of that straightaway.
So Roger Hayden was able to put it on pole position with his qualifying tire, trying not to let Cameron Beaubier get away. Oh, and we have a rider that's down.
I couldn't tell if it was, it looked like it, no, it wasn't. It was it?
There's a rider off in the distance back there.
Like
we
Roger
saw,
maybe.
Yeah.
Not sure though.
So racing continues up front is the 24 of Tony Elias coming from Spain.
Oh, it's Cameron.
Is it Cameron Beaubier?
Yeah.
Could it be Cameron Beaubier who's dropped out of the race? Indeed it is. So Cameron Beaubier, who was leading this thing and starting to put the pressure on and break free, has crashed in this race.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
There he is.
Probably
wow.
It's a very tight right-hander that he fell in, and we just couldn't see it. It was out of our view, but I saw the monster helmet. There's a few of the boys with those helmets now, but Cameron will see if he can get back in this race and try to get some points. Now, we have a lot more riders this year than we had last year, so it's going to be harder for him to get back into the points, but this is big for those guys behind him because they all saw him fall over, Greg, so they know this is an opportunity to get some points out of this here. So Jake Gagne second. Nope, Tony got it back. So Tony Ellis is still second. Yoshimura 1-2.
Wow, so Roger Hayden telling us in a great conversation we had with him last night that it's so important he collects the most amount of points at the beginning of the season and puts in a very strong mid-season. The first thing he needs to do is win this race, and Cameron Beaubier handed it to him. So now Roger Hayden in the driver's seat, circulating at a 209.763 was the fastest lap of the race so far. Last go around, a low 210. So the race continues now for second place. It was third, now it's second place as Gagne tries to move up the inside. He tries to yard that R1 down, and he gets by Tony Elias. Here's a look in the pits as Cameron Beaubier, your reigning champ, made a mistake, crashed, and now he goes the long ride down pit lane to see if he can get repairs or jump on another bike as Tony Elias, look at him go sideways. Wow!
Austin.
What an incredible control of the motorcycle. He can't get the thing stopped.
It looked like he was in there really deep, Greg. It's so easy to do. That's a 200-mile-an-hour back straightaway. For these guys, we're looking up at where it's in the 185, 190 mark. But Jake Gagne's up to second. Right now, Raj is sitting in the catbirds. This is what he needed. He was putting pressure on Cameron still. He sees him fall over, and when he comes by, he's going to be hoping he sees that +1. But look at Jake Gagne. Jake Gagne, to me, right now, is probably the premier young guy that we have in America. He's proven himself so well the last 2 years. And, I mean, what he did last year going and doing that motocross race, even the AMA National Motocross race, as a rider, he's just incredibly talented. And I think that as he gets more used to this Superbike, he's going to be a threat, Greg. You can see Tony's in there just really deep. He's got the leg out, got the thing backing in. A lot of things going on there just to get the bike stopped. It's great having a track like Circuit of the Americas, though, where these guys have a lot of runoff and they can continue on.
As we watch the race coverage here on BN Sports, if you're new to motorcycle road racing, that is definitely what we call to the lock, sliding sideways. As now Josh Hayes, the number 4 on that Monster Energy Graves Yamaha, makes it by the Yoshimura pilot of Tony Elias, as Elias may have rattled himself a little bit with that big move. And Josh Hayes, who of course has 4 Superbike titles, 7 titles in the AMA Superbike Series over the years. As Jason, you pointed out, he's really struggling here, but if he can get away with a podium in this race, it may set his confidence a little further, because points collection is what it's all about. We know that Hayes came here last year in the rain in race 1 and was able to win it.
Yeah, you can see here they're going into the last turn before you come onto the front straightaway here. Looks like Tony just outbroke himself again just a little bit, and all Josh needed was that little bit of a window. Stood Tony up, and they headed up down that front straightaway now. But we're going to keep a close eye on this gap between first and second. It looked like Raj got in there a little bit deep, but Raj has got so much experience. Oh, Jake Gagne almost just did it right there, Greg.
Wow. Folks, we call that an almost high side. We call that a save. So that was a big moment for Jake Gagne. He's able to gather it back up. And believe me, he understands the warning signs, but it's already behind him, because he's got to race forward, as he has number 4, number 24 in his rearview mirror. That's just like, theoretically, we don't actually have rearview mirrors.
Yeah, no, that was a big thing. And, you know, Jake's putting his head down. He was trying to catch Raj there, and that's, again, a first gear corner. It's very easy to spin the bike up out of that turn headed onto the back straightaway, and you're looking to get the biggest drive you can get. So that was what you saw Jake just very late in that corner. He almost got high-sided. So Jake's kind of a throwback, too. I love the hair just dangling out the back of the helmet, you know?
Absolutely.
Reminds me of Simoncelli a little bit.
Resetting the order for you really quick. Number 95 in the Yoshimura Suzuki is Roger Hayden out of Owensboro, Kentucky. He leads the way from number 32, Jake Gagne, last year's Super Stock 1000 national champion. And then there's Josh Hayes on the number 4 machine, just turned 41 on April 4th. And he used to run the number 41, actually, when he was on another manufacturer bike, racing Superbike. Then we have Tony Elias on the 24. And then back in 5th spot is Josh Herron, the former AMA Superbike champion, now turned Superstock 1000 rider, is the first of our Superstock competitors. So leading the way on track with 11 to go, 4 Superbikes.
Yeah, and you can see Raj has really stretched it out now. And, you know, as a rider at a big track like this, when you start seeing that go up, your intentions now with 11 laps to go is if you can just kind of get yourself to push through these next 4 or 5 laps, and you can continue to see that thing grow, you know that with 5 or 6 laps to go, you can kind of run the pace of everybody else, get that +6. Here you go. Here's a look at our Superstock 1000 leader. You can tell by that red number plate on the front, Josh Herron. And just in the background there, you see Claudio Corti coming after him on that Aprilia, on that Houston Superbike Aprilia. But as they head down this hill, Josh doing a great job. I don't think, you know, I haven't got a chance to talk to Josh yet this year, but I think he'd be more expected to be further up in the Superstock where he qualified. So to see him do so well in the race, they maybe have found something. But having Claudio Corti over here on that Aprilia, again, another manufacturer getting involved, Superstock 1000, and he's trying his best to run down Josh right now.
Claudio Corti on the 71 is on that Aprilia HSBK Racing. That's the Houston Superbike right there out of Houston, Texas. Representing Texas right now is Claudio Corti, but back up front, Jake Gagne with that hair flapping. And like Jason Pridmore said, easily distinguishable between Superbikes and Superstocks. It's the 33 machine looks like on fire.
And when you see Kyle do that, when he's saying something, he knows there's a lot of oil on the ground. So he's trying to get these corner workers, not just to tell, you know, I don't think he knew his bike was on fire until right then.
Oh, man.
But I think he believes there could be some oil in the braking zone down there going into turn 11. So we got to check to see, make sure that there's no debris. Oh, it's going down. That's turn 1, Greg. That's so early in the lap. So he's gone all the way through the S's with that oil down on the ground like that. Unless this is, yeah, that's definitely going down out of turn 1, it looks like. But this is at the end of the back straightaway. So we've got to really have a look and see how much oil, if any, that was put on the track, and see if they have to maybe put a stop to the race.
So Kyle Wyman, who is in the Superbike class, you can tell from that white number plate with the, oh, wow.
Wow.
Look at that. Oh, man, that is a train of oil all over the racetrack.
Yeah.
The motorcycles are fit with fairings that have closed catch, you know, like a
They're closed.
enclosed.
So
They're
yes.
enclosed, so they're supposed to catch all that. But if it's leaking off the side of the engine, there's not much you can
No,
do.
Raj needs to. Hopefully, they get this race red flag before Raj gets there, because he's about 5. There you go.
There it is.
So you're literally. He was 5 turns from headed down that back straightaway, and what it almost looked like, Greg, from the original camera view, it looked like dry sweep was already put down. That's how much oil there is. It's not dry sweep, and all these guys right now, hopefully, you know, I can see it still right there. And you know, you got to feel for Raj, obviously, here, because he had a nice lead built up. But I think he's going to have the confidence to know that he could do that again. But still, it always seems like there's something for Raj.
Oh, it does.
It's never easy for the kid.
No, it's not easy for Roger Hayden. Roger, really, he finished, the margin of victory where he finished second last year was incredible. Riders signaling to other riders they can see the oil down the back straightaway. And of course, as the hours start to tick away here in Texas, and the way that sun is, you can really see that oil.
Yeah, that's really tough there. It's really bad. So that's great that these guys were all kind of keeping an eye out for each other and letting each other see what was going on. It was a great move by you know, the MotoAmerica clerks to get this race red flagged before those leaders got back there, because that's one of those things that can just be kind of a nasty incident. This is going to be a long cleanup, obviously, with all the stuff that's on the ground there.
If you're just joining us or you're watching MotoAmerica Superbike for the first time, the red flag indicates a race stoppage, usually for some incident that can't be cleaned up, can't be picked up, some dangerous thing. So the red flag comes out and race action stops, and that is for cleanup or an injured rider. In this case, it was number 33, Kyle Wyman, on the Millennium Technologies Yamaha R1 Superbike that looks like it exploded. It started to leak some oil, then it caught fire. The quick thinking of the corner workers here at COTA be able to put that machine out, but you're looking at what is left of the oil that is on the racetrack. They're going to have to get people out onto the racetrack, inspect it, and then if there's something to be cleaned up, they're going to have to clean it up. A good look at the MotoAmerica pit lane paddock right now as they wait for riders to come in. Stay with us here on beIN Sports. We'll be back shortly to sort this out.
I'm here with Roger Hayden. Roger, unfortunate circumstances right now for you.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of a bummer. You know, I felt really good. I had a nice gap going and was just slowly pulling away. But, you know, it's part of the race, and sometimes there's a red flag, as disappointing as it is. So look forward to getting back going and hopefully continue the same pace we had. Yoshimura Suzuki is really working good. So hopefully we can finish, but definitely disappointed.
Take us through the beginning of the race. Behind Cameron, he had an unfortunate crash there. Your confidence going into and chasing him down?
Yeah, he was definitely pushing really hard there in the beginning, and I was barely hanging on. And he crashed pretty early. I'm not sure what happened, but he was definitely going good. He was going to be tough to catch him. So, but now we just got to look forward to this second half of the race.
Thank you very much, Greg. Jason?
All right, thanks so much, Roger Hayden. Obviously disappointed with that red flag, and the reason we are under these red flag conditions, number 33, Kyle Wyman, looked like his engine expired, and they're inspecting for oil on the track. I mean, it looks like from our viewpoint that there is oil on the track, but they have people down there, hands on track, to really figure it out.
Yeah, there's no question. There's a lot of oil on the track, and good for Kyle for letting everybody right away. He was telling the corner workers, hey, there's a lot of oil on the track, and obviously his bike was on fire. I don't know if he knew about that one and till late, but But, you know, it was good on him for doing that. And going back to Raj's situation, it's frustrating because I've seen Raj lead a lot of races like this and be winning a lot of races like this. And it's just, like we said earlier, it always seems like it's something for him. Like, this is a race that was playing right like how he needed it to play. He was running the pace. Cameron made a mistake just in front of him. And Raj was doing an outstanding job. As we look at Josh Herron, who was doing a great job on 1000 Superstock, who unquestionably would probably be the odds-on favorite just from his past experience and things like that.
And same thing for Herron, really.
Absolutely.
I mean, he was having his way with the Superstock field. And just to kind of recap the order, when the red flag came out, it was Roger Hayden leading Jake Gagne, Josh Hayes, and Tony Elias. Now in 5th spot, and the first Superstock 1000 motorcycle was Josh Herron, Claudio Corti, and Josh Day. Now let's go back down to Julian, who has more.
Guys, thank you very much. I'm here with Josh Hayes. Unfortunate way for this race to stop.
Yeah, this is never fun. You know, we want to race a race start to finish, and this is always unfortunate. And for me, things are starting to kind of come around, so this is definitely a setback. Sometimes these tires are a little tough to, once they heat cycle like this, it's hard to get them back up to temperature and get back going like we were. So yeah, I think it'll be an interesting restart. Unfortunately, I had moved up a position, but now I'm going to lose that because I didn't do it by the finish line. So it's going to make a lot of work for everybody, I think.
And it's tougher this season. So many more racers than last year.
No, we're actually, doing the same number of races, and sometimes we're doing 2 a day. It's the events, we do 2 every weekend. So, but
I guess what I meant to say is riders. That's what
I mean, yeah, we do have a lot more riders, and more than that, basically where we used to have 3, maybe 4, we've got 5 or 6 now at the front that are capable of winning.
Right.
So it's some new players up there, which is making it exciting and fun. I'm kind of eyeballing them, trying to figure out a little bit about them because I haven't raced with them before. So just kind of taking what they give me right now and trying to work on my own craft at my pace. I feel a bit out of sorts and dated right now.
Now you got to focus on Atlanta. You got the break coming up.
Well, we still got a little bit of time. I still got a lot of work to do here. We got to finish this race. We got tomorrow's race, and then a very short run. I'm going straight to Atlanta from here. Going to meet my wife there, see a little family, and Atlanta's a good track for me. It's close to home. I grew up racing there, and so hopefully, I've been feeling a little apprehensive about this weekend. It's not one of my better tracks, and hopefully when I get there, I can start feeling that fire and that chip on my shoulder and wanting to go get those guys, really go after them. Where here, I feel like I'm trying to survive a little bit.
You just celebrated a birthday. How you feeling? How you still doing it after all these years?
Do we have to talk about that? I'm blessed. I'm 41 years old. I have a factory contract to race a Superbike. I can't think of a better way my life could have gone. So I'm thankful for every day. I'm thankful for this family over here I have at Yamaha, and I still get to ride the coolest bike, this R1 on the planet, and I'm having a lot of fun, and it's a learning process. I walk this crazy line all the time where I kind of feel a little tired, but I get on the bike and I feel like I want to charge. So I'm still getting around the racetrack all right, and yeah, see what we can do.
See, Jason, there's still hope. You can still be out here racing. Get Greg to kind of push you in there, man. Get Greg to push you out there to the track.
No, I'm actually good right here.
Well done.
I've been where
well
Josh
done,
is.
Julian.
I'm going to remember that, Julian. I'm going to remember that.
Hey, you know what, Julian? Now that we have you, why don't you just stick the mic in Josh's face and just ask him, I'm curious as to what he thought about racing Tony Elias at this point.
Oh, so Greg wants to know what it felt like racing against Tony Elias at this point.
He's been really fun to watch. I tell you. I'm terrified when I saw, when I got that opportunity to go by. I took a little peek over my shoulder hoping he wasn't still there, because seeing him with his feet off into all the turns, he's just running it off in there so hard. It's really scary looking to watch. And I kept thinking I must have a gap because I kept waiting for him to throw one in there somewhere. But I just tried to not think about it, focus on Jake in front of me. But he's exciting.
All right.
That says it all right there. A little nerves and a little big smile.
It does. Perfect. Thank you so much, Julian. And thank you to Josh Hayes, of course. He's always a great interview, Jason.
Yeah, he's awesome. The thing about Josh is that's his attitude just about all the time. And he's very open. He'll tell you how he feels about a certain thing about, like, this track. He told me, he's like, Jay, I'm treating it like Daytona. Like, we just want to go there and get out of there and get as many points as we can and leave. And COTA is just one of those tracks that's struggling. Now, that said, he knows his teammates out of this race, who I believe he probably feels was his biggest threat going into the season. And it's still too early to really talk about points for the first round. But that does play off in the back of your mind, because now he's got a second chance to really go after this. And I wouldn't be surprised if after he talked to Julian there, he goes over and makes any kind of subtle adjustments or changes that he might have seen that when Cameron was ahead of him or when Jake was ahead of him, their bikes might have been doing a little bit better. This is where somebody that's a veteran like Josh, a 4-time Superbike champion, won't be scared to make a little bit of a change just to see if it's going to make a difference. Chances are he's going to finish in the same spot in the race regardless. But if he can find that little extra push to go up there and steal a win from Raj, you know, that's an extra 5 to 11 points that he's going to be able to stick into his bank. So looking at that, Greg, you know, wouldn't be surprised to see him make a little change like that.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens here because the race is scheduled for 15 laps. What they do in a red flag situation is they go back to the last lap everyone completed. So we go back to 11 laps to go. And Cameron Beaubier was actually 2 laps down in 17th. So it doesn't look like his team right now is thrashing, trying to get him back on the motorcycle. If you're new to MotoAmerica Superbike racing, the point system mirrors what happens in MotoGP. So it's 25 points for first place, 20 for second, 16 for third, and on back fourth is 13, 11, and then we go by 1 point increments. So the last points paying position is 15th place. You know, with Road Atlanta coming up in a couple of days' time, really, you got to load that bike up and go. Is it even worth right now trying to get Cameron Beaubier back on that motorcycle?
At this point, now that we have bigger grids, you know, we can't do it. We had, what, 28 riders. So
yeah.
The thing is he's 2 laps down to 28 guys, and he's got to be able to, what they're going to have to do is just get the bike ready to go. He's got another race tomorrow, so he can come back and redeem himself a little bit there. And like I said, it's a long season. The way the points are structured now, too, it's not that hard to make points back up. Like, you can actually have a race or two thrown away. And if you look at most of the championships over the years, you know, MotoGP specifically, you know, you can look at what Jorge Lorenzo did last year. He didn't finish every race. He didn't finish 2 or 3 races, had a couple throwaway races, still won the championship. You could come back and get 6, 7, 8 wins and still do all right.
Julian, you have more.
Yeah, guys, I'm here with Tony Elias. Tony, 4th place. The flag comes out, unfortunately, the way things, and you're looking so good.
I don't feel good. I don't feel like yesterday on the practice. Looked like I had some little problem in the clutch because the bike locked a little bit. But even with that problem, we were there, we were fighting. I think if the red flag didn't come, was possible improve more, trying to catch Roger. He did a really, really great start and great rhythm. But we will see. Now is another race, new story. We will see. I'll try my best.
Speaking of new story, new chapter in your career, you're out here racing in MotoAmerica. What does that feel like coming out here?
Yes, it's nice. I'm really happy. It's a chance for me, an opportunity. I'll try to do well, to continue in these championships and also in your country.
Tony, gracias.
Gracias.
Mis amigos, Greg and Jason, back to you.
You know, again, this is another thing where back in the day, we had many Europeans that wanted to come race in America. We had so many people that wanted to come to America. And, you know, I remember when Troy Bayliss came here, and you can look at Troy Corser, and, you know, it's neat to see Tony Elias here. He's a name, and it's going to give our series a place to shine in other countries. You know, Spain's going to be checking in now, Greg, to see his progress over here. And you know, you could definitely tell going into corners, like you said, Josh was talking about how exciting it was following him. The bike was backing in an awful lot, which would definitely lead to some of the things that he was maybe talking about there.
Josh Day on that Westby Racing Yamalu entrant motorcycle in the R1. Josh Day competing in the super stock class. He's another up-and-coming racer, and you know what? We are putting Julian Gonzalez to work down there. You have more, don't you, Julian?
That's right. Got to earn my pay, guys. I'm here with Jake Gagne. Your face, I looked at you. You looked at me, and the face said it all.
Yeah, man. First Superbike race out here, and yeah, it was pretty hectic out there the first couple laps, but I was having a good time racing with those guys, and yeah, I was bummed there was that little red flag because I was having a good time. It was shaping up to be a good race there, I think, with Josh and those guys, but yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens after this restart, but it should be a short one, so.
Yeah, unfortunately, Cameron goes down. To your benefit, your thought, mentality at that point?
Yeah, Cameron was going really, really fast. He was blazing at the beginning there, and I think he just made a little mistake. I saw him slide off, and bummer for him, man, but he'll be coming back swinging, no doubt. So we just got to do what we can do here and try to go fast.
How'd you feel with the bike and stuff?
The bike's running good right now. Yeah, we're still working on a few little things. We're not fully comfortable yet, I would say, but for where we're at, it's awesome, man. I'm having a great time. So.
And tell us a little bit about MotoAmerica, man. It's such a great race, and it attracts so many people. For yourself, you're making the jump up to Superbike. It's just great and all around.
Yeah, MotoAmerica's done an amazing job. You know, we say it all the time, but just compared to where they were at last year, and then 1 year into it, 2 years into it, it's already amazing what they've done, and I'm just happy to be a part of it. Happy to be here in Austin with the MotoGP guys, and yeah, hopefully we just keep putting on a show.
What did you work on during the off season to prepare yourself now for the Superbike?
Just trained, you know, rode a lot of motocross, rode a lot of mountain bikes, you know, just tried to feel good. I'm feeling healthier and feeling fitter than ever, so we're ready to go.
Thank you so much, Jake. Well, guys, I'm still trying to get Jason back in a bike. I mean, he's a youngster, man, but look at that hair. If only we had that hair.
I agree, and I think that the thing is that he doesn't put many wheels wrong, and you know, it'll be interesting to see how he progresses throughout the year, because if he's this competitive this early, I think the rest of the field is going to take note.
Look, Jake Gagne is one of the most talented motorcycle riders that have ever been around. He did something last year that no one has ever done that we can remember. Jake Gagne took his road racing skills and the skills that he has as a motocrosser, and he was actually given a factory Yamaha YZ450 motocross bike. He went to Utah and qualified for the pro motocross race. Yeah. No one's ever done that, let alone he was in the middle of a battle for the Superstock 1000 championship in the middle of that year. But a road racer went and he qualified in the top 20. He finished in the top 20. Didn't get to race 2. He was a little bit dinged up or whatever. But what he did, he opened the eyes of motocross fans and pro motocross racers by his accomplishment. It was something special to witness, the 22-year-old from San Diego, California.
Absolutely. No, he's an incredible guy, and he's obviously an incredible talent. Works really hard at his game. He's really found a home there with Danny Walker and the whole crew out of Colorado.
And speaking of homes, MotoAmerica is right here at home on beIN Sports Network, where it's been announced recently that we're going to be showing the entire 2016 season and beyond right here on beIN Sports. Of course, it's starting right now at the Circuit of the Americas. Next week, we stop at Road Atlanta, April 15th through the 17th. And of course, we want you to come out and watch those races and then go home and watch the races. We go to New Jersey Motorsports Park, April 29th through May 1st, Virginia International Raceway, Road America, Barber Motorsports Park, Utah, Mazda Raceway, Laguna Seca, and back to New Jersey. Now, what we're hearing is it's going to be a 5-lap shootout. Right there, you can read it. Race to be restarted, oil being cleaned from the track, 5-lap shootout. That's 3.4-mile track. I mean, it's not like it's, you know, 50-second lap times. I mean, we're talking 2-minute, 10-second lap times. So it's still going to be a significant amount of racing, but it's not going to leave a lot of time if you make a mistake off the start.
Yeah, that's where I was talking about earlier, Greg, with that first turn here. It can really make or break your race, and you've got to make some decisions going up that hill that you might not otherwise have to make if it was a flat or not as elevated, shall I say. A lot of turns that we go into are flat and unundulated, and this one here just goes so steep, and you got to make some decisions pretty quickly what you're going to do when you get to the top. And look at the people they got working on that back straightaway. I think they got every single corner worker must be out there.
Julian with more.
Guys, well, I'm here with a gentleman that doesn't need, well, a big introduction. Of course, I'm here with Wayne Rainey. Wayne, it's not the best way to get things started here with the Superbike.
Well, you know, these things happen in racing. You know, I just saw what everybody else saw. It looks like, you know, when Wyman was going down the straightaway, he had an engine issue. And sometimes the riders feel when your foot pegs are oily, sometimes you don't. He obviously didn't feel it, because I know if he did, he would have pulled over. But so we got an oiled down racetrack, and right now they're going to clean the track up, line them back up. We're going to race 9 laps. So it's going to be soon. We'll be back out there racing.
Great marriage just took place a short while ago between MotoAmerica and beIN Sports. It's so great to be a partner with you guys.
Oh, yeah. We've been working on this a long time. And to be on the network like beIN Sports, we're really excited about. You know, we're lined up with MotoGP and the World Superbike. And, you know, MotoAmerica, we want to show everybody in the U.S. that our guys are ready to go, and our teams are really strong. And you can see by the riding today, these guys are riding hard and they're riding fast, and this is great. We're really excited about the new relationship. So looking forward to the rest of the year.
Wayne, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Guys, back to you in the booth.
All right, thanks. Jason, if there's one a guy who knows racing, it's Wayne Rainey. 3 times he won the 500 GP World Championship. You know, came from Southern California, blonde, blue-eyed, had it all kind of guy. And it's great to see him steering the ship here for MotoAmerica.
What's incredible about Wayne is the status that he has, you know, being a 3-time MotoGP champion and a legend of MotoGP. How available he is to everybody. When you come to a MotoAmerica race, he's right there for everybody to come up and say hi to. He doesn't hide in a suite, and you know, after his injury and things, I know it deflated a lot of the country because Wayne Rainey was such an icon, and to see him get hurt that bad was a shock to so many. And I know how hard it is. It's so much harder for him to get to the places at a racetrack than it is for you and I and everybody else. The effort it takes for him to get to the paddock and stuff, but that's where he sits. He sits in the paddock. He sits on pit lane. And last year, when I started coming to the races, he was there just introducing himself to people, moms and dads and teams and things, and thanking them for being here. And he's not hiding. He's right here in front of everybody, and that's what's going to make, hopefully, our series continue to grow. Everybody's got to remember, this was their first year last year. We're only in the second year here, and now with being able to cover the races live and things like that, it's a big step back for American motorcycling, and that's what we need. And having him, kind of steer the ship is a great thing.
And Wayne Rainey, of course, was involved in one of the greatest rivalries in the history of motorsports. I mean, you have to put the Kevin Schwantz-Wayne Rainey rivalry up there. So much so that in 1993, after Kevin won his world championship the same year that Wayne was injured and paralyzed, that Kevin admits that he kind of lost the fire. I mean, he really lost it because it wasn't just about racing for a guy like Kevin Schwantz. And we talk about Kevin, who actually had a hand in designing this road course. And it's 3.4 miles long because Kevin Schwantz's famous number is 34. But, Kevin in his own right was, an icon. And adding fuel to that fire, of course, was Wayne Rainey in that rivalry. And it was something to behold if you were a GP fan in the early 90s.
Yeah, and I think that when you're used to being at the racetrack and seeing the same people and then having that rivalry, when it goes away, I don't know how it couldn't affect you the way it affected him. And I've talked to Kevin about it, and I've actually talked to Wayne about it, and they both have kind of said the same thing, and now they're great with each other. They're
good now.
They're great now.
When they raced, they were serious.
I mean, and even to the point where 2 years ago at Suzuka, Kevin Schwantz ran a Wayne Rainey replica helmet, which I thought was really, really pretty cool.
It's no fake reality TV, that's for sure. If you're just joining us here on beIN Sports, you are watching coverage of the MotoAmerica Superbike Championship of Texas at Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. It's the first race of the year for the Superbike / Superstock 1000. We're under red flag conditions, where competitor number 33, Kyle Wyman, in his Millennium Technologies KWR Yamaha R1, had an engine issue, oiled the track, and so right now the red flag stops all of that, and they're cleaning it up, and we are set for a restart for a 5-lap sprint race that's going to go, we're basically going to go warm-up lap, get in your grid position, I would imagine, because the time is running out here on the daylight, and then we're just going to release the clutches and get racing. So
it's so hard as a rider, too, because sometimes you have quick turnarounds with a red flag. Sometimes it can be just something really fast and quick, and they get you right back out. But these guys have been sitting there for a long time. So we'll have a quick little look at some of the highlights and things that have been going on so far in this race. But this guy was obviously in the lead and taking care of business, Greg.
Yeah, so, when we got race action going right before, all these riders real happy to go. When the light went out and the jump happened, it looked like Roger Hayden on the 95 would get that shot, but it was number 1, Cameron Beaubier, who would lead this thing with that pass, relegating Roger Hayden to second place. Then Cameron Beaubier would put his head down and start to gap the field.
Yeah, and you can see there, I actually could see it that time. The rear of the bike came around, and as it snapped back, it made the front unsettle, and he lost the front there. So it moved all these guys up. All these guys are going by going, wow, the number 1 bike just fell over, and that probably gave Raj a big motivation. And you can see here, Tony Elias, the bike backing in a little bit, gets in a little wide, opens the door for Josh Hayes, and Josh says, hey, welcome to MotoAmerica, Tony.
So the battle for third continued as Beaubier, after the crash, picked his motorcycle up back to the pits. Crew looked at it, can't continue. Then this is the incident with the 33 of Wyman, whose engine looks like it expired. Then it started on fire. A quick work and, of course, extinguisher by the corner workers. Red flag would come out. All the riders signaling, hey, here it is. Check out this long straightaway. And there's the oil on the track. You want to stay away from that. That's that line right in the middle of your screen.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's good that they got that out. You know, I think when we sit here and we watch the races, you can see Roger's reaction.
Disappointment,
He's so
right?
bummed. I mean, it's almost like not again, you know. And you know, hopefully he could pick up right where he left off.
Live pictures of Josh Hayes right now. His focus trying to concentrate on his racecraft because he knows he's just off a tick. There's something going on with Hayes. He doesn't get along with this racetrack exactly the way he wants to. In the early days, you know, we used to go to Daytona. A lot of people would say, like you said, hey, look, I just want to get out of Daytona with a heap of points. That's what Hayes' focus is right now. But you can see that there's nothing going on with the bikes. Everything's all set and ready to go. So as the cleanup continues, there will be a 5-lap restarted race. That is a sprint race. It's going to be exciting. Cameron Beaubier is out right now. He is out. He was 2 laps down, going 3 laps down when the red flag came out. To get him restarted in the race makes no sense at all. You can see that his motorcycle is right there at the bottom. And there is Josh Herrin. Of course, Josh Herrin was leading the Superstock 1000 portion of this thing. Josh Herrin, a former Superbike champ as well, when he was teammates with Josh Hayes.
Yeah, a few years ago.
Factory Yamaha.
Then he went over to Moto 2. And what's funny is before that race was red flag, right? He was getting caught a little bit by Claudio Corti. So
yeah, that's
going to be a name that we're going to have to think about also. Somebody with a lot of experience, but Claudio Corti was coming forward on that Aprilia, and they were getting ready to have a good race themselves.
You know, let's shift gears real quick and talk about Cameron Beaubier. We heard Wayne Rainey, you know, allude to the fact that MotoAmerica is the series that they want to start building U.S. champions and sending them to World Superbike, sending them to MotoAmerica or to MotoGP. And you know, Cameron Beaubier is one of those people that people are saying, hey, Cameron's got a ton of talent, and he's our next big hope. Now, I talked to Cam about it earlier today, and you know, Cameron has experience in Europe. 07, 08, 09, he was in MotoGP. He raced Red Bull Rookies Cup, and then he raced in the 125 class. A lot of people don't remember this or don't know, but in 09, Cameron Beaubier was Marc Marquez's teammate.
That's right.
Okay, on the KTM. And Cameron admitted, as Claudio Corti, hey, Claudio, thank you so much for the big smile. But Cameron Beaubier says to me he wants to go back to Europe.
Mm-hmm. I think he's a kid that knows that, you know, he's used to the cultures a little bit more over there. Like we talked about before, he's not scared to try different foods, and he wants to be at the pinnacle of the sport. And I think that right now, being here in America, Yamaha's offered him a great opportunity to hone his skills, get better on a superbike. And now that Yamaha has got back into World Superbike, that, you know, who knows what the future might hold. There might be a spot available for him there in the next year or so as our cleanup continues to happen here. It looks like they're getting a little bit more along the line here with the big sweeper, but I think Cameron is not afraid to make that jump. I think that if he goes on and wins the championship this year, for sure, that would be the top priority on his list.
His contract is up. This is the last year of his contract in the U.S. But Cam did say he was 16 years old when he was, you know, last time he was in the MotoGP World Championship race in 125. He said he didn't have his head on straight. He didn't have parents there. He was by himself. He wasn't really serious. So now you look at a guy like Cameron Beaubier. He knows what he's up to. But he also said, I'm not going overseas if it's not right. I've got to have a good motorcycle. It's got to be competitive. He wants to stay in the Yamaha family. I don't know if that's possible, but he also intimated a little bit the possibility of going to World Superbike because now Yamaha is back in World Superbike as well. So it seems like there's a lot of possibility. Hey, Jason, look at the cleanup job that this crew has done.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, you know, there was a bunch of oil down, oil dry. We saw the sweeper on track. Helmets are going back on. These are all things that point to we're going back racing.
We're going back racing. And I'll tell you, the thing I think about when I look at that was, you know, that dry sweep, it is soaking up the oil. It's doing all it needs to do. But if you're in those third, fourth, fifth rows, it's going to get dirty down that back straightaway because there's going to be a lot of that dry sweep that's going to be getting moved around. The stuff gets in your eyes. It's nasty stuff, and it's in a braking zone at the end of the straightaway. So you're going to see the majority of the leaders go down the left side, down that back straightaway, the bigger side, because I think that there's not a lot of room, you know, at the end of the straightaway. It gets all the stuff's on the right-hand side. So when they come out of turn 11 and start heading down that back straightaway, a lot of the bikes are going to be on the left and enter turn 11 probably a little tighter than what we're used to seeing. So we'll keep an eye on that as we go. And it looks like they've set the grid back up out there. And yeah, I just want everybody to be safe. This is where on your out lap, it's really important to really look and see where that oil dry sweep starts and go from there.
So basically what we're going to look at here is the front row of the grid is going to be Roger Hayden, Jake Gagne, and Josh Hayes. On the second row is going to be Tony Elias, Josh Herron, who's our first of our Superstock 1000 riders, and Claudio Corti. Josh Day on the 00 is going to start off on row number 3 with Bobby Fong, Danny Eslick. Then it's Steve Rapp, Hayden Gillim, and Sheridan Marias. Yeah. South African rider, a great story. Hopefully we get to talk about him more during the course of the year. What a really fun guy to talk to. He's actually won a couple championships in South Africa. Taylor Knapp is in the mix in 13th spot with David Anthony and Chris Ulrich right there. In 16th is Ryan Jones, Max Flinders, and Anthony Kaczynski, and on back. So not even listed on our grid right now, of course, is Cameron Beaubier. He's out of the race. Kyle Wyman is also in 25th spot. So it looks like we should have around 24 riders if Kyle can't get his program back on track, which I'm not really sure if...
I'm not sure they could do a motor swap that quick, but...
That'd be real tough. So that's what we're going to look at when this thing gets going again, with Roger Hayden back in the position that he was in at the beginning of this whole thing, in pole position. So we're looking like about 1.5 minutes until pit lane opens, and you got to do it all over again, right? I mean, you just had all that energy and all that adrenaline and all that race start. Now you're totally chilled out. You got to get warmed up again. So
this is where Raj has got to get a good start again and get away in those beginning S's. I mean, I really feel like if he lets those guys hang around and they start drafting and redrafting down that back straightaway, it's just going to make it a lot of work for him. I think that if he can get up to that first turn first, it's going to be a big deal. Now, the problem with that is, Josh was on the second row just now, and Josh has a tendency to get good starts, and he likes to be the rabbit and get out front, and he'll pester you. He's not the kind of guy that just lets you go by. He's going to come after you in the next turn again, as we look at Chris Ulrich here. So the thing I'm looking at now is just making sure that, A, you got to get a good warm-up lap. You got to look at where the dry sweep is. Secondly, if you're Roger Hayden, you got to get a good start and get your head down to those S's the first lap.
Chris Ulrich on that M4 Suzuki will be starting in 15th spot. He runs the number 18. Now, look, last year, Yamaha came out with a brand new R1. Cameron Beaubier, Josh Hayes, they mopped up on that motorcycle. One of the things that we're going to be talking about all year long is this man right here, Roger Hayden, on that Suzuki GSX-R 1000. Suzuki had made an announcement, even sent out some photos of the brand new GSX-R 1000. It's been delayed, so basically the joke is that this is a vintage bike that they're riding, and when Roger Hayden and I spoke, actually you were there, when he pulls up some of the data on this motorcycle, it says Matt Mladen and Ben Spies on it. That's since 2009.
Yeah.
So the motorcycle is aging. There is no doubt about it. Rogers, in the last year of his contract, he definitely, I think, would like to re-sign with Yoshimura Suzuki and get a crack at the brand new GSX-R 1000. And it's one of those things, I think, that we're looking at it. He's saying it's not an excuse, and that's good. And obviously he was on pole. All right, Jason, so here we are. Green flag out. We're going on the sighting lap one more time.
Yeah.
Tell us what's going through your mind, and what are the riders focused on right now?
Red flags can be brought out for a number of reasons. For this one, we know it's oil, but sometimes it could be raining in the middle of the race.
Yeah.
During that little rain spur, it might start to dry before you even get back out. So warm-up laps for me are all about being able to really diagnose what I feel and what I see on the track, and that's what these guys are all going to do right now. My biggest fear is that they didn't catch where the oil is early enough. So I'm going to go out there and really kind of make my own investigation, if I will, on the track and just make sure that it's all cleaned up. As soon as these guys get to the back straightaway, they're going to see where that line is down there. But this warm-up lap is strictly to continue to keep the heat in your tires that your warmers have been on since you came back in, and you got to, keep the heat in them during this warm-up lap. Now you can see a lot of them aren't really ripping around on this warm-up lap, Greg. They're diagnosing what they're looking at, what they're seeing, and now they're going to get to see a lot of dry sweep coming up. Looks like a couple of the guys didn't quite make it out in time for the warm-up lap, and one of them looks like Claudio Corti possibly. So that's going to really impact his race. You can see, if you look in the background there, all of the dry sweep coming up. You really don't want to cross that stuff the first couple laps under heavy braking. So where you see the guys on the left-hand side of your screen right now, probably aren't going to see the leaders there on the first time. They're going to be to the left of that dry sweep. So it would be viewers right now. Right? So
yeah,
we'll have to see what happens here. But that's going to be really sad if that was Claudio Corti that we just saw there.
It was Ryan Jones on the 83 on the Fisco Tap House. He was on the Yamaha R1 as well, out of West Virginia. So, and we know he was stopped, and it looked like Claudio Corti. We had someone standing in front of us as we look at the Yamalu Westby Racing R1 on the double-aught motorcycle.
Yeah.
That's a double-aught.
Had a great chat with him today, and it's his second year. Obviously, we lost Dane last year, and they brought Josh in to kind of continue their season as a team and keep that tradition going. And they've done such a great job chucking all the guys down there at Westby Racing to keep this team alive, keep it going. And it's really great for somebody like Josh Day because he has traveled the world, this kid. He's always riding for different teams every year. And he said to me, he says, Jay, this is the first time in forever that I've actually got to ride for the same team 2 years in a row. And that does a lot for a rider's confidence when he knows he has a group behind him like he does down there.
You're looking at live pictures from Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, right here on beIN Sports. This is the MotoAmerica Series. It's the United States Superbike Championship right now in its second year running. Although we have a long history of Superbike racing here in the United States, we're here as support for the MotoGP weekend. And this Superbike race was under red flag conditions for the last several minutes as we had downtime because a rider, Kyle Wyman, the number 33, his bike oiled the track. It's all clean now, and we're ready to go racing again. Here's a look at that starting grid with a 5-lap sprint race in mind. It's Hayden on pole. As we get to row number 4, you can see Steve Rapp and Hayden Gillum. Some big names in the sports, including Chris Ulrich. On back to some newcomers as well. Johnny Rock Page on row number 8 on the 269, the aging veteran. Barely making the grid, but he was able to make the big show as we actually saw a couple of people get knocked out because of this man. Roger Hayden did such a fast lap. You have to be within 107% of the qualifying time.
And, Greg, I could be mistaken here, but with all the guys that were standing on the grid just now, they might have just let those guys do a sighting lap, and they might go out and do a warm-up lap now, which would probably explain why they were going so slow. Okay, so yeah, they are going to go do a warm-up lap. So that would explain why they were going so slow just now on their warm-up lap, because they were just giving him a sighting lap. And this is just going to give them a chance now to go put that heat back in the tire. And for these two guys, it's a gigantic break. Obviously, they didn't get to miss they missed the sighting lap. No harm, no foul. They're going to go out and do their warm-up lap now. And,
yeah, they will get a good look at what the incident is all about. So that's the whole idea behind that, is to give the riders an opportunity to see where that oil was down and how it's going to affect their racing line. And even as you saw, some of those riders were going through that oil dry to try to clean it up even more.
That's right. And that oil dry really does a great job. It really does. And I think that the more experience you get used to being able to run through that after an incident that you just saw with Kyle's bike breaking there at the end of the straightaway. But now these guys, you can tell, a little bit more lean angle, a little bit more speed, get a little hit in the tires. Now they're getting a little bit more racy. They'll go down the back straightaway, and we'll get a real idea this time of where we think guys are probably going to run when they get down into turn 11. The problem is, Greg, is turn 11 is such a crucial overtaking place going down this back straightaway. So for this to happen there is very, very unfortunate. And, this stuff happens. There's nothing you can do about it. And but we'll see where these guys are running. They're on the right side of it now. Then they'll probably cross over it, and then they'll end up on the left side. Although it looks like a couple of them are on the right. It's kind of a split thing right now.
Just to give you an idea, the fastest Superbike, or Superbike, Superstock 1000, two different configurations of the same motorcycles racing the same class. 191 miles an hour, terminal velocity at the end of that back straightaway. The fastest super stock machine, right around 184 miles an hour. So a good deficit. Most of that comes from that acceleration of a Superbike coming out of that turn number 11 down that back straightaway.
We saw in that first part of this race, Josh Herron wasn't that far behind Josh Hayes. In fact, for the first couple of laps there, he was able to kind of hang out there. And there's going to be some tracks that we go to where we saw last year, Jake Gagne was able to be really close to the Superbikes. And it's going to be the same way this year. I think now we have more people in the fold too, Greg, on Superstock bikes that are going to be competitive, that at some of the tracks that we go to, they're going to do everything they can to give some of these Superbike guys a run for their money. I mean, what better way to showcase yourself than to be able to run up front on a Superstock bike?
And with only 5 laps in this race, there's no holding anything back.
No.
Absolutely not. You've got to go for it at this point. The race has been reduced by at least 6 laps, so riders going out there like Roger Hayden, He's got to get himself a really good start, stay focused, and you gotta be, you know, this is a different starting procedure than we usually see, so you got to make sure you don't jump it.
There's going to be one guy here. I don't know who it's going to be, but there's going to be one guy who's going to have a big go up in turn 1 because it's a 5-lap restart. This is where you can really make a difference.
Yep.
And show a little bit of aggression and get up into that turn. And you know, turn 1, like I have said, is so tight at the top up there, and it cuts back on itself so sharp. So, you know, again, we'll see who that might be, but they're getting a few of the guys in the back of the grid kind of lined up again. You can see the one spot on the 3rd row there. That might have been where Kyle was supposed to start, or you know, I'm not exactly sure. It looks like Danny might be in the wrong spot. Danny needs to go back there on that 3rd row. You can see him trying to back up.
So Danny Eslick far right of the screen,
clears, which is interesting because Danny's still not in a grid spot. So, oh man, okay.
There we go.
Yep.
All right, so we're ready to go, and they're off and running. The restart of this race, it's MotoAmerica Superbike race number 1 from COTA. And around the outside goes the 95 of Roger Hayden. Wow, looked like he almost lost the front there for a moment. Gathers it back up.
Very good call there, Greg. And it looked like Josh got in there, but then made a mistake and allowed Tony Elias to go by. So I think this is a good scenario for Raj right now, being in front of Tony. And we're going to see if Tony can go with him. And we're going to be looking also in some of these hard braking zones to see how Tony's bike is reacting compared to Raj's.
Very processional through this first lap. This section of the racetrack, it's very wide, but it's one line as Tony Elias now getting out of shape. Josh Herron on the number 2 goes wide, and there goes Elias on the attack. So he takes over the lead from teammate Roger Hayden. Elias with something to prove.
And this is what I was worried about for Raj, because now he's got 4-time champ. He's not going to be afraid to go stuffing underneath him down here at the bottom of this hill, just as I say. And now
there goes
this
Hayes.
Is what I mean. Josh feels like this is something that he can get revamped on. He's going to try to get in Tony Elias's draft and go after him. But Tony's got a great drive. He's got to the left of that dry sweep, kind of like we thought they might do, as is Josh Hayes. You'll see him cross it over. And they're going to enter this, majority of the guys are going to enter this dry sweep on the left. And then Raj is getting swallowed up back there. Look like Gagne was trying to go by him. But so far, it looks like everybody's safe getting down through here, all the way back to Steve Rapp. See, Claudio Corte didn't get a good start. Hayden Gilliam's back there on the Superstock 1000.
So if you're an international fan, you know Moto2, MotoGP, it is Tony Elias, who's a fill-in rider on the Yoshimura Suzuki for the injured Jake Lewis, who was all kinds of sideways, losing positions and battling for 3rd in the first leg of this race, is starting to set sail.
Yeah, and it looked like somebody slid off back there, and I hate guessing, but it did look like an Aprilia-colored leather. So hopefully that's not Claudio. But this was my biggest fear for Raj, that it was Claudio Corte. Down there in the turn 15 area. And, you know, again, he didn't get out for that siding lap. That could have been just a little extra heat that he needed in those tires. But look who's coming after in 2nd place, Josh Hayes, you know. So we've got 4 laps to go. It's a total shootout now. Elias led the first lap, and he's getting real wide in these braking zones, Greg.
Real wide. Josh Hayes made the most of the rain last year in race number 1. Still the same situation. Wasn't quite on the pace. Made the most of it to win race 1 last year. And now in a position where he's got to hunt down a man who's got tons of international racing experience. World champion Tony Elias. Moto2 on MotoGP bikes. I mean, this rider is on it. When he's on it, he is on it. But Hayes also knows from the first stint we had that Elias can get a little bit sideways and make some mistakes. So we'll see, as we heard when Julian interviewed Tony Elias, some clutch issues possibly for that Yoshimura bike. But it sounded like Elias was learning how to ride around it, and that's why I wanted the race to keep going.
It did, but you can see Josh catching up here. Josh, you know, if you paid attention to his interview, as we look at Josh Herron here, who's still leading the 1000 Superstock class right now and pushing Jake Gagne, when you heard Josh talk, the one thing he said is, I'm learning how to ride around some of these guys that I haven't seen. That's what makes a 4-time champion. Somebody who can educate themselves, isn't afraid to learn some things, and he's going to go to work here on Tony Elias. He's going to get a nibble of him here in the next lap or so.
So down the back straightaway where the oil was down, you can see that oil dry, some puffs there, as Roger Hayden is not giving up the line he wants to ride in. Riders choosing a line a little bit further inside than they had to.
But I honestly feel like you know, watching Raj just break down into there, he looked very good, but I think it's going to make you a little bit tentative when you have to go over that stuff, especially early.
Yeah,
so
that's what I think.
you know, you can see that he didn't really catch up to those guys a lot in that braking area. So Tony Elias still leading, doing a fantastic job. But I think that towards the end of the S's, out of turn 1, all through that next section is where Josh seems to be able to close up. This section here, it seems like Tony can pull away a little bit.
So Tony Elias on the Yoshimura Suzuki, number 24, with that bright yellow helmet, is getting hounded by number 4 Josh Hayes on the Monster Energy Graves Yamaha R1.
You see how much Josh closed in there on the braking, just trailing off into that corner. It looked like the Yamaha had a little bit more positive feel in the front. So we'll see how they are as they come up this hill. He's definitely closer than he was last lap. Now I want everybody to pay attention that after they get through this next string of S's, Greg, this is turn 1. By the time they get to turn 9, Josh is going to be a lot closer. So if you look at the gap now, I think he'll be closer towards the end of these S's that are coming up now.
Tony Elias with that very compact riding style. He's very small in stature as well. Definitely a weight advantage over the motorcycles behind him under acceleration and braking.
Absolutely, and you know, Raj is in that situation now where he doesn't want to get held up staying behind Josh. He just ran the fastest lap of the race, and he doesn't want to get held up here. But these two guys racing against each other could let Tony just kind of breathe away a little bit with just 3 laps to go. But you can see these guys have closed back up in on Tony as they head down to the turn 11 area.
So Roger Hayden, number 95, right there on the Yoshimura Suzuki from pole, was leading this race after Cameron Beaubier crashed out. Then the red flag came out on the restart. Roger Hayden is trying to find his rhythm once again as he chases Josh Hayes, who's in turn trying to chase the fill-in rider, Tony Elias.
Yeah, and these 3 now, and you can see Raj crossing back over again. Gagne staying left of it, Heron staying left of it, everybody's staying left of it. But with more riders that continue to go through that dry sweep, Raj's line is going to work. I still think he can get back to where he wants to enter. Tony makes a mistake and runs really wide out of there, so he's pushing very, very hard.
You know, Josh probably put that knowledge of Tony the way he was riding in the bank, and he's just biding his time right now. As 24 leads the 4 from the 95. It's Suzuki versus Yamaha versus Suzuki with Jake Gagne hanging around in 4th spot. That's your top 4 riders all in the Superbike class, as Josh Herron, Bobby Fong, Josh Day, and Steve Rapp make up the top 4 in Superstock 1000, just a few seconds behind. 3 laps to go in this 5-lap restarted sprint race to the finish. It's always a sprint race here, but this one is more like a club race.
But look who's closest now. So Raj and Josh are both closer than they've been this whole time. So, you know, now we're going to see, getting up to the top of this hill, you see Tony can really drive out of there well. Josh needs to be closer going down to the turn 11 area at the end of these S's. After through turn 10, from 1 to 10 is all kind of one line like we talked about, but he's got to be closer down that back straightaway to make a move. So, you know, it's funny, what happens with Tony Elias if he wins the first 2 races or first 4 races while Jake Lewis is injured? You know, that's what we've got to ask.
Listen, we did. I went to Don Sakakura, who's the team manager for Yoshimura, and I said, if Tony Elias walks away with wins as a fill-in rider, what do you do? He looked at me and says, I find budget to start a 3rd team. And that's the mentality of the Yoshimura Suzuki. So, you know, you're looking at it, this is, you know, race 1 of the beginning of this championship, but Tony Elias is really fighting for a ride.
Yep. See that little move there? That's a test. That's next lap test. That's what that is for Josh. Josh sees that Tony's opening up that right hand. Look, he's close enough now to park him down here in turn 11. He doesn't need to. He's going to pull right up alongside of him, make it hard for Tony to turn in.
Just can't do it.
He's trying.
Oh, that's close. That was really close. And now Elias has got to think behind him.
And Raj could maybe get a double draft down this big back straightaway. But all these are little tests right now that Josh is setting out there. And he's got to be close enough through those S's. I think he can make a surprise pass on Tony in the S's before they go up over that blind spot, up over through turn 9 and 10. I think he can make a little surprise pass there. He lost a lot of ground there on the exit at that turn, though.
Josh Hayes getting it sideways, couldn't quite get the bike slowed down to the apex where he wanted it to. Another little gap for Tony Elias with 2 laps remaining in this race. The lap times are in the 2:11 range. We saw in the first stint, the first go around, 2:09 range. But those tires, the right side of the tires, definitely looking worn at this point.
Yeah, and through that little stadium section there, Tony's really good. Like, he's really, really good. He gets that Yoshimura Suzuki all through that section very, very fast, and he pulls away. But these guys kind of reeling back in through this turn here, and by the time they get to the last corner, both Raj and Josh can pull up a lot. Trail braking into here, they can pull up a lot on Tony, as you can see. But Tony gets a great drive out of here, but they've got to be close enough through those S's.
Go ahead.
I'm looking, Greg, somewhere in the turn 8 region that Josh could maybe make a move as Raj is trying to make a pass, but it's so hard because it's blind as you come up that hill, and it's very hard to commit to making a pass.
Well, this is it. The white flag is out, so if Josh Hayes is going to do something, it's got to be now, because the next time they see a flag, it will be the checkered flag, and this race will be over. It's a race at the front. Tony Elias, fill-in rider for the Yoshimura Suzuki crew, with Josh Hayes, 4-time Superbike champ, and right behind them, pole sitter Roger Hayden, who's looking for his first Superbike title.
And Josh isn't close enough to do the pass that I was expecting. Right through this section, I thought he might try something. Now, if he can somehow get a little bit closer when they go down to this next section, and he's not going to be able to, he's further away. Tony's ran an absolutely perfect first quarter of a lap. You can see that the Yamaha is not quite able to get close enough to him. Now, this whole next section, literally from the end of this back straightaway to start finish line, favors Elias. Josh is in there deep.
Yeah, it looked like Tony kind of parked it just a little bit, and that might have been what Hayes needed as he takes a look over his left shoulder and he sees the 95 go by. That's for second spot. So now Hayden at the end of this straightaway, he's not going to be close enough, but he's going to try to close the gap on Elias, as right now, if Elias can hold on and have a perfect last section of this racetrack, he's got a really good shot at winning this race, as Roger Hayden in second spot. Boy, when is the last time we saw 2 Yoshimura Suzukis on the top of the box? This would be something else, as we've seen years of Yamaha dominance lately in Superbike. Tony Elias, a couple days testing. This is incredible, as Hayes now goes after Hayden. The 4 against the 95 as they go side by side, and Hayden has the spot.
You know, Hayden made a mistake there in the stadium section. I'm sure there's a lot of emotion going through Raj right now. He feels like he should have won this race. Now he's seeing Tony going out and try to win this thing. So don't be surprised to see Josh try to do something with Raj here in the last corner also.
Here we go. It's for second place. There goes Hayes up the inside. He's dive bombing. Hayden has none of it. Can he get the drive out, as Tony Elias will take the checkered flag in the win? And how about that? Yoshimura Suzuki going 1-2 here at the Circuit of the Americas after a day of drama. When was the last time we saw that? Wow, what an incredible race.
And Bobby Fong actually got by Josh Herron on the last lap to win the Superstock class also.
How about Bobby Fong on the 2016 Kawasaki ZX-10R? The latest motorsports crew must be jumping for joy as they make the transition from a 600 team to the Superstock 1000. They put a lot of effort into that motorcycle. The first time they even tested for Bobby Fong, they've barely gotten the body work off to test that stock machine. So congratulations to Bobby Fong, who finishes in 5th and wins the Superstock. But all eyes are on the 24 in front of the MotoGP paddock, and all the people that he's raced against, he's raced for. It's Tony Elias from Spain, who wins the first race of the year for MotoAmerica right here in Austin, Texas. What an incredible story he'll have to tell.
And he ran the fastest lap of the race on the last lap. So he went 2:10.8, and I knew that whole first section, Greg, he cleaned it so well. And the last half of the lap, he's so good. He's already really good in. So
man,
it'd be interesting to see if they made any adjustments to that bike in between, because the bike definitely looked a little bit better under heavy braking. And, you know, if that's an indication of what we've got for the rest of the year, I'm excited about the MotoAmerica season for 2016.
Don Sakakura from Yoshimura Suzuki right now is a split man. He is happy that he won. I'm sure he's sad for Roger Hayden, because Roger was so close last year, so close to winning. My heart goes out to Roger Hayden. And I'm sure Don is thinking, okay, what do I have to do right now to start finding some budget? How do I keep this guy in the series? So very interesting times for Yoshimura Suzuki. Josh Hayes, who comes home in 3rd place. He collects 16 points to Roger Hayden's 20, which it's early to talk about the championship, but if Tony Elias has another opportunity, doesn't get to continue on with the ride, because that ride is Jake Lewis's. Now here's a good shot at Bobby Fong, who did win the Superstock 1000 race in 5th spot. So he'll obviously collect 25 points in his championship. But if
here
all
you go,
that happens,
last corner, last lap between Herron and Fong.
Look at Bobby Fong with a little bit of a wheelie and a look over.
And you know what? He could have easily just stood Josh up and pushed him off the track, and he did. And that was good, clean racing between those two guys. It's great.
And we've seen it actually in the past. They used to race together in the old AMA Super Sport class, so Daytona 600 class.
Yep.
And there's definitely a lot of racing between those two over the years. Let's take a look at the final results. These are the overall results. You can see there in the middle part of that graphic that the STK indicates super stock. So Tony Elias, Roger Hayden, Josh Hayes, Jake Gagne. Really a shame for Jake, who was in third before that red flag, and he finishes in fourth. Then Bobby Fong in fifth overall, Josh Herron, Josh Day, Taylor Knapp, and Sheridan Moresu. Super stock, super stock, super stock. So there's your podium, Fong, Herron, and Day. So congratulations to those riders as well. On back to Danny Eslick and Steve Rapp, David Anthony, teammates actually with Bobby Fong. Chris Ulrich on that M4 Suzuki in 13th spot, just ahead of Hayden Gillum and Ryan Jones. So a shame for the reigning champ, the #1 plate. He'll be back tomorrow, of course. We'll have the coverage right here on beIN Sports of Superbike race #2. So Cameron Beaubier has an opportunity to gather himself back up, think about what might have been, what could have been, and get back after it tomorrow. But the one man who doesn't get to celebrate too long is Tony Elias, because he's got to go to work again tomorrow.
And I think it's a great victory, not only for Yoshimura, because it's been a while since they've been able to win. It's been a long time since they've been able to beat the Yamaha straight up.
Yeah.
It's great for the series, Greg. I mean, it's great to have Tony Elias over here racing in America. It's what we need, and we've got 3, 4, 5 real talented riders that can all win Superbike races this year. And I'm not going to lie, I'm really disappointed for Raj, only because I know, you know, the kind of race he was probably planning out in his mind in that first one. But this is racing, and anything can happen. And at the end of the day, Tony did an outstanding job there to get to the front and hold off. 4-time champion.
A very busy Parc Fermé down there, something that we love to see. Of course, you have the Red Bull Grand Prix of the MotoAmerica's backdrop there with MotoGP and the FIM, as MotoAmerica is support this weekend for this series. The one time a year that we get to see this combined race. But right now, let's get down to Julian, who has our race winner.
That's right, guys. I'm here with Tony Elias. And Tony, for a fill-in, it looks like you're a guy that wants a full-time job. What a race. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I'm really happy because, like I told you before, we found in the first race something was not working really well, but we were there, no? But they found the problem, they adjust. I have a great team. Suzuki is amazing. And finally, we start with determination. I was in front, trying to maintain a strong rhythm, and finally we did it. Thank you, Yoshimura Suzuki, for giving me this opportunity, the team, the chief, the mechanics, everybody, the sponsors. And yeah, it's far from home, but it's really nice.
Tony, congratulations. Greg, Jason, back to you guys.
Thank you.
What an incredible race win for Tony Elias. Incredible win for MotoAmerica.
Well, I said that it would be interesting to find out if they made a change, and obviously the Yoshimura crew, with as much experience as Don Sakakura and all those guys down there have, they made the right choice. They made a small adjustment on him that made the difference for him.
And Tony Elias is an international star. I've seen him being interviewed by many different countries while he was here and shining a spotlight on MotoAmerica, and this can only make that light even brighter.
Yes, absolutely.
Look at the variety of people celebrating with him. Let's go back down to Julian, who has Hayes.
Guys, Josh, your sportsmanship coming, congratulated Tony. Unfortunately for you, it didn't turn out the way you wanted.
I'm excited for a podium with how testing and everything has gone here, but I'm disappointed not to win when I had an opportunity. I felt like I had an opportunity today, and I let the team down a little bit. I feel horrible for Cam. He's been riding so good for a couple weeks, and I really thought he would be in the battle, but I gave Raj the best shot I had there at the end. We were both made a lot of mistakes there, but it was a lot of fun racing with him, and other than coming home in third, pretty successful day.
Guys?
Thanks so much. Congratulations to Josh Hayes. Like he said, he wanted to collect those points, so he was able to get that done, and obviously he's got 16-point lead over his teammate, who Cameron Beaubier is definitely the favor with MotoAmerica to try to recapture that #1 plate.
Yeah, no doubt, Greg. And I think that if, talking to Josh like we did yesterday, he just wants to get points and get out of here and to put on the podium and even have a shot at winning. He actually had a shot at winning. And I think if he could have got close to that last lap, he would have made a bigger effort going into turn 11 than he did the lap before.
So congratulations to the Yoshimura Suzuki crew and Tony Elias in front of the international crowd, to the delight of all the fans that stayed with this one. That's your first Superbike race here on beIN Sports Network, and we'll be back tomorrow for more race action. We're talking Super Sport, Moto3, Moto2, MotoGP, and it wraps up the day with Superbike race number 2. It has been a fantastic day of racing, hasn't it, Jason?
That's been great, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
All right, so that'll do it for us right now. Thank you so much for checking out MotoAmerica on beIN Sports, and we will see you right here tomorrow for MotoAmerica and MotoGP from Austin, Texas.